is a four-stanza poem that is separated into sets of 6 lines, or sextains. Jennings chose to structure this piece with a consistent rhyme scheme. It follows a pattern of ABC, alternating as the poet saw fit from stanza to stanza. The poem was first published in Jennings' collection, A Way of Looking, appearing in 1955. The most important images of this piece are of course those related to autumn. Although the season does not begin until the very last line of the poem, the text is laden with referential memories. The speaker uses Proust as a starting point to describe her own moments of recollection, inspired by the smell of the air. She can tell that the fall is coming, even though the world appears still very much under the sway of summer. Song at the beginning of autumn. No, watch this autumn that arrives. In smells, all looks like summer still. Colors are quite unchanged, the air on green and white serenely thrives. Heavy the trees with growth and full. The fields, flowers flourish everywhere. Proust, who collected time within a child's cake, would understand the ambiguity of this. Summer still raging while a thin column of smoke stirs from the land, proving that autumn gropes for us. But every season is a kind of rich nostalgia. We give names: autumn and summer, winter, spring, as though to unfasten from the mind our moods and give them outward forms. We want the certain, solid thing, but I am carried back against my will into a childhood where autumn is bonfires, marbles, smoke. I lean against my window fenced from evocations in the air. When I said autumn, autumn broke. This is an early poem by Elizabeth Jennings, 1926-2001, first published in her 1955 collection, A Way of Looking, and reprinted in the collected poems edited by Emma Mason. A lifelong, practicing Catholic, Jennings is usually described as a religious, or Christian, poet. Mason doesn't contest such description, but her argument for a more complex poet than critics have previously acknowledged is justified by the range of preoccupations emerging in this substantial volume. The poem begins with the speaker stating that autumn is on its way, but it doesn't appear that way to anyone else. The speaker is able to sense, through the smells in the air, that soon all the green on the trees will wilt. In the second stanza, the speaker relates her own memories to those depicted in Proust's novel, Swan's Way. In it he tells of a narrator's return to a childhood memory after dipping a madeleine in tea. The poem concludes with the speaker defining why and how human beings name and categorize seasons. She also recalls her own madeleine moment related to the coming of autumn. It seems to her that she is able to call the season forward with only the word, autumn. Stanza 1. No, watch this autumn that arrives. In smells, all looks like summer still. Colors are quite unchanged, the air. Opening parenthesis, ellipsis, closing parenthesis. The fields, flowers flourish everywhere. In the first stanza of this piece, the speaker begins by stating that autumn is coming, and one can detect its presence by smells in the air. This is one of the only ways one can know at this point, as all looks like summer still. Colors are quite unchanged. The following lines emphasize the fact that everything still speaks of summer. When she looks around her environment, she can see that all the colors are the same bold greens of summertime. Everything appears to be thriving, as yet untouched by the beginnings of death or decay. She states that the world is serene. This suggests that when autumn comes, serenity will no longer be present. The fields and trees are still full of growth, and there are flowers flourishing everywhere. Proust, who collected time within a child's cake, would understand. Opening parenthesis, ellipsis, closing parenthesis. Column of smoke stirs from the land, proving that autumn gropes for us. In the next set of lines, the speaker refers to Proust, the French novelist who is best known for his work à la recherche du temps perdu, or In Search of Lost Time. The speaker is referencing Proust's investigations into time, memory, and experience in this section and later lines of the poem. In particular, she is referring to a moment in the first volume of the work, Swan's Way. Proust's narrator is overtaken by a memory from his childhood that surfaced after he tasted a madeleine, or small cake, dipped in tea. It is this child's cake that the speaker is referencing in the first line. She speaks of Proust being able to collect time into a cake. Embedded within its form are all the emotions and experiences of one's life. There is of course an ambiguity to this, not everything is remembered exactly as it was. The next 3 lines are somewhat scary. She tells of summer and its continuing rage, as well as Hoa. Thin column of smoke stirs from the land. It is this sight that proves to the speaker that autumn is reaching out for us. It signals the progression of time and therefore death itself. But every season is a kind of rich nostalgia. We give names, opening parenthesis ellipsis closing parenthesis, our moods and give them outward forms. We want the certain, solid thing. The second half of the poem begins on a lighter note. Jennings quickly takes the reader back from the darkness of autumn to a more straightforward view of the seasons. She names them and defines them simply. They are all different but equally full of rich nostalgia. But I am carried back against my will into a childhood where, opening parenthesis ellipsis closing parenthesis, from evocations in the air. When I said autumn, autumn broke. The fourth stanza provides the speaker with her own Madeline moment. The smell of autumn approaching brings her back against her will to a childhood where autumn is bonfires, marbles, smoke. She recalls from the past these 3 words. They represent in the simplest forms what her life used to be like. Marbles probably refers to a game, perhaps played around a bonfire of which smoke is inherently a part. The speaker returns the reader to the present in which she is leaning against her window recalling the emotion-laden memory. It is not an entirely happy one. The starkness of the 3 words speaks to an emptiness around her past. Perhaps something was missing from the speaker's life at this time, or she was missing out on something else. The poem concludes with the line, "When I said autumn, autumn broke." The speaker is ascribing a great deal of power to speech here. Although it is likely she does not believe this, it is as if she can predict, call upon, and bring on autumn with a single word. This is how close, mentally, and emotionally, she is to the changing of the seasons.